Will it be a November to remember, or will the Utah Hockey Club have some regrets by the time we get to American Thanksgiving? Robyn and I are going to talk about our wishes for November, talk about some news, notes, and nuggets on today's show. Welcome to the Locked On Utah Hockey Club podcast. We're starting it right now.
You are Locked On Utah Hockey Club, your daily podcast on the Utah Hockey Club, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And indeed, it is time for the Locked On Utah Hockey Club podcast. Tom Callahan, Robyn, Leano, thank you so much for joining us. We are kind of in a little bit of a basket show here today. And Robyn, I was so excited to get into talking about our thoughts about what's been going on, what's coming up for this Utah Hockey Club. I almost knocked my water bottle over, and that would have been an absolute disaster. So for those watching on YouTube, you see the arm waving, sort of, because you can really see me from the shoulders, right? In the very top of my Bills logo, go Bills. But, you know, it's everything off screen here. I got everything kind of in reach, and I almost caused a crisis at the very outset of the episode.
Hey, but you know what? That's okay. We were able to make it, and we're here.
We are here. We are here. And today's episode brought to you by Indeed. Still searching for a great candidate for your company? Don't search, just match with Indeed. And, you know, Robyn, Indeed, there is a lot to talk about right now with the Utah Hockey Club because it's a 4-game road swing going on right now. Tough loss to Vegas in overtime the other night. I have thoughts on that. I have thoughts on the benching of Dylan Guenther. We've been talking about some other players. I know you have thoughts, and you're going to expand on Kevin Stenlund. Mm-hmm. And before we get to all that, because we are going to look ahead at what's going on for November, but October's gone now, right? So we've played some home games, some road games, and this Utah Hockey Club team, there have been some positives, some negatives. And when I look at where they are, honestly, I think there are some surprises that we've seen here so far. So let's start with your thoughts. Looking at this, what are your thoughts right now with the Utah Hockey Club?
You know, this is a team that has, the best way to put it, they have surprised me, but not surprised me in many different ways. It's a team that is very much the same of what I've been used to when covering the previously known Arizona Coyotes, a team that has had so many inconsistencies, dealt with a lot of, issues that I consider being a growing pain of a young team, kind of learning how to work with each other, going through a lot of these things. But at the same time, to me, I've considered it a bunch of still like, a little headbanger for me, because I'm just like, why are you making these same mistakes? Your guy, this is 3-4 years in at this point. You should have this. You guys should have this put together. They've got some good wins, but some of the losses, I look at them and I'm like, you still got to work on that.
Well, I mean, yes, if you're not working on things, you're not growing, right? I mean, you're not getting better. So I understand that part of it, but also the repetition of the mistakes, it kind of reminds me of one of my favorite phrases, which is everything in moderation, including moderation. Sometimes you have a lot of something, sometimes you have a little of something. And I think the mistakes, what gets me, and to your point, is when you want to see growth, you want to see taking a step forward. And this is not necessarily pointed towards the rookies, but in some ways it can be. Mm-hmm. You make a mistake once, okay, that's going to happen. You're going to make that play in a game. Now you have to learn from it. Now you have to understand when you're faced with that situation again, not to do it. And I think probably one of the biggest, and I don't know if this is on your list or not, but it's definitely on my list, are the bad penalties, the mental mistakes, the ones that you just absolutely should not be taking. And I feel like those are still there. And that can be a killer. It can be a momentum killer. It could be a game killer. When do those go away?
Yeah, you're right, and it could be as simple as the fundamental ones that I've discussed that I've had issues with, which the delay of game or too many men penalties, or even something as simple as you take an interference at the wrong time or whatever it might be. It's like, okay, you shouldn't have done that then. Like there's a good and a bad time to take a penalty, and as you and I have discussed multiple times on this show.
Offensive zone penalties should almost never happen.
Right.
Defensive zone, okay, if you're taking away a scoring chance, I get it. Sometimes you make a bad play, you're out of position. You just need to haul a guy down. It happens. And I think a team is more willing to kill that penalty than somebody fell asleep on the bench, didn't know when it was time to change, or two guys jump out, or what have you. Those are, you're getting paid an awful lot of money to be
Yeah,
an NHL hockey player. So you got to pay attention, Just it's mental sharpness in some of these, and it honestly drives me a little nuts.
it does, and I hope that they'll learn through all that. Still, I mean, like I said, this has been what 3-4 years at this point, but I, I'm still hopeful that they'll learn from that and that they will grow. It's still a very young team, one of the younger teams in the National Hockey League. So I have reason to believe that it's only going to get better. I just need I just need visual confirmation.
I think, and to look back at October, one of the other things that is on my list for this team, we talked about special teams heading into the preseason. I do want to say from the time we started playing games that meant something until now, I feel like special teams has gotten better. And is it where you want it to be? Not quite yet, but I think that probably more than anything else you can do as a team takes a lot of time to come together. So as that time goes on, as they play more games, it will get better. Again, penalty killing is heart and hustle. It's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of start stop. And it's just a lot of times it's being patient, which is hard for some of these guys, especially some of the younger players, to have the discipline to not chase, to resume your position, and to not, end up making what turns out to be a mistake that leads to a goal because you wanted to get a little too aggressive at the wrong time. So that's where you have to have faith in the system, faith in the coaches, and understand that there is a purpose to what they're teaching you. So for me, I see it getting better. I'm actually not as concerned as I thought I'd be with a lack of progress. So I guess that's a good sign for me, right?
Yeah, I would say it's definitely a good sign. And I think that's I will say though, that's I think a little bit of where you and I differ. It's because like for you, you're not concerned. For me, it's more of I've seen this before. I want to see a little bit more progress. I'm so gosh darn used to this at this point. It doesn't surprise me. I'm just tired of it.
That's fair. That's fair. And, the Utah fans who are new and are coming to this pod, and by the way, thanks for joining us. And of course, our everydayers, we appreciate you. We love you. Thank you for being here. You know what, Robyn? I think that part of it is you don't want that stigma following you from Arizona to Utah. You have a chance to reestablish so much.
Yes.
And that is so important. New habits. Really, you're in a new arena, new setting, new everything. You come in, it's a brand new building. It is a new lease on life, which you don't often get in hockey. So for an entire team. So, I was encouraged early when they started hot. I was dismayed when they kind of fell into that 4-game slump. The outing against Vegas over the weekend, Vegas is very good.
Yeah.
And again, that game to me shows you the gap between a definite playoff bound team and where Utah Hockey Club is right now. Connor Ingram was the reason and no other reason why Utah was in that game.
Why they stole that point.
Yes.
I mean, I will say credit, credit for being able to steal that point. But like I said, a lot of that is credit to the goaltending.
Which, by the way, is another thing I talked about in the preseason that I was concerned about, and I wanted to see them take some steps. Ingram has been a little bit better than expected. He's had some ups and downs. He's had good games and bad games.
He was shaky to start off the season.
Yeah, I was a little concerned there. I thought on the road trip, I wondered if they're going to kind of switch it up a little bit with those guys. But by and large, I think he's done fine. I honestly do think Veggie needs to play a little more
Yeah.
early on anyway. I mean, yeah, you want to get Ingram in a rhythm. I understand why you hand him the ball 3 out of 4, but I do think that, I mean, heaven forbid anything happens. I'm going to knock on wood right now. Um, you don't want a goalie stepping in there who hasn't played in 3 weeks.
Yeah. It almost feels like they're it's a 80-20 split and not like what we kind of expecting, like a 60-40.
Which you really don't see in the NHL these days. It used to be, I mean, hey, folks, newsflash. If you're new to the sport, there were goalies who used to play every game of every season,
Yeah.
like consecutive games. And that is not a thing anymore. And as backups started to get an increased role, it kind of went to like out of an 82 game schedule, 70 went to the starter, 65, 60. Now, if you have a starter that plays more than 60 games in a year, that's the exception,
Yeah.
not the rule. Now they shoot for like a 50 to 55 game expected window for your starting goaltender. So,
I mean, there's
which
a reason, Tom, why there is
sure,
a NHL award out there now. I think if I'm not mistaken, the Jennings Trophy is the one.
Jennings.
If the Jennings Trophy goes to the tandem with the lowest goals against average.
So it actually goes to the team
Yes, but
with the lowest goals against average. Generally, it's 2 guys, but yeah, there have been years when it's been 3. And actually, back in the day, like I say, when goalies used to play every single game, 1 guy could win the Jennings. But that was a long, long time ago. Before Robyn, you were a twinkle in the hockey god's eyes. It's a different game now. And so to me, again, I mean, Ingram puts in a performance like that. Now that was tremendous, right? That was a tremendous game against Vegas. And again, the shining star for me for Utah was Connor Ingram in that one. I did like, again, I think they're doing much better with the pucks to the net. And I like that because that philosophy is going to get them some goals. But man, the defense, how many years in a row have we underscored, highlighted, bold-faced, italicized defense is something we need to see more and better of, and we're still not quite there.
we're still not quite there. And let's dive into more about that. But let's hear a quick word from our sponsors on today's show.
All right, today's show is brought to you in part by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Run your game all season long with Prize Picks. So right now, you can win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. And Prize Picks is the best way to get in on the action in sports in over 30 states, including California, Florida, Georgia, Texas, and of course, Utah. Prize Picks is the only real money daily fantasy platform with an injury insurance policy. This is wild. So your lineups stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. If your player leaves in the first half and doesn't return, Prize Picks keeps your lineup live. That alone is pretty mind-blowing. Prize Picks puts its members first, so all withdrawals are safe, fast, and secure. When my picks hit, I can get my money in as little as 15 minutes, believe it or not. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. So if you think Justin Jefferson's going to have 83.5 yards and pick the more on that, or maybe, I'm a Bills fan, obviously, go Bills. I like to throw that out every chance I get. So Josh Allen, what am I going to pick on Josh Allen? 268.5 yards over or under, picks, TDs, you can put it all in there. It's the best way to win real money this football season. Make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your sports opinions into real money all season long on Prize Picks. All right. Here's how you're going to do it. You're going to download the app today, and you're going to use our code LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the app, and the code is LOCKEDONNHL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. So make sure that you do that. Prize Picks, run your game. And today's show is also brought to you in part by Indeed. We're driven by the search for better, but when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. If you need to hire, you need Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. And Indeed doesn't just help you hire faster. 93% of employers agree Indeed delivers the highest quality matches compared to other job sites, according to a recent Indeed survey. I know that the company I work for in my real job, we've hired folks and we haven't always used Indeed. And you know what? I really wish we had. It took a long time. It was confusing. There was a lot of cross-pollination of candidates when there shouldn't have been. I wish we had streamlined with Indeed. So join the over 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of the show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/lockedon. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and show support for our show by saying you heard about Indeed right here on the Locked On Utah Hockey Club podcast. Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
All right, Tom. So you mentioned defense right before we hit that break. Let's get into a little bit of that because going into the summer, we were talking about the concern because at the time there was none.
Literally none. There was no one.
Then defense got built, but then it kind of got torn apart because of injuries. Even despite that, there was still some glaring areas from the defense in this first month.
Yeah, and I will defend them a little bit with a couple of points.
Mm-hmm.
First, again, injuries are a reason, but not an excuse. What they have had to endure is shuffling of D partners, new players in and out of the lineup. Lamoureux is stuck around, but we've had some guys up and down from Tucson, some players in and out. I know Valimaki was sitting in the press box a little bit here. Now was back in at least against Vegas. The trade for Olli Mata. There's so much going on, right?
Yes.
That's kind of part of the scramble is defense. What really, I think, makes your defense play well is when they communicate, play well together, and they know each other. This defense does not know each other right now.
Right.
They just don't. And it shows on the ice. There's miscommunication, there's blown coverage, and there's a lot of reasons for it. But number one is communication or lack thereof and the familiarity with your D partner. And they don't have it.
It takes a long time to build chemistry. And when you don't have it, sometimes it takes hard to actually build what you have with whoever your partner might be. And if they keep shuffling it around, you can't really build that kind of chemistry or rapport with your D partner. But Tom, I will say this, and again, in the game that I saw a decent amount of it in the D partner, and you mentioned it too at the time when we did the show against Calgary, Maverick, Lamoureux, and Olli Mata together actually looked pretty decent.
Yeah, and I think what helps, and I mean, I thought Lamoureux looked good with Cole too. What helps Lamoureux is that being paired with those two veteran guys, they know to keep an eye out and play more defensively responsible because you are playing with a rookie D partner who is probably going to make some mistakes. And that's no slight against Lamoureux, but he's going to make some mistakes. He's a rookie. Like there's plays he'll try to make that Ian Cole does not make, that Mata does not make. So I think that is why they are able to look a little better together, is because there is that heads up, with that kind of pairing, because the expectation's there, right?
Yes.
But when you have, and they even did go 11-7 against Calgary, and we've seen them go 11-7 before. But so the other night against Vegas, you had Mata, Valimaki, Kesselring, Lamoureux, Cole Yachonok, and Sergachev dressed. So that's your rotation, right? You're not really partnering when you have an odd number of defensemen, you're rotating.
Yeah.
And to me, that is, I think you can do it in a game in a pinch when you need to, or if you're trying to take minutes off somebody's plate. I understand that. I don't know if you can do that on a regular basis and not expect to occasionally be shredded on defense, because guys aren't always used to who they're playing with.
Yeah. And I feel like that's one of my biggest, and this thing, I didn't use those words specifically, but it was always one of my biggest gripes with the quote 11-7. But I will say that does work in its cases when we're talking about a young team that, or a team that doesn't really have that chemistry. This is a little flip side argument here. We got to manage those minutes too, because sometimes you don't know how the minutes are going to go between whoever these partners is, especially when you have these rookies around.
You know who I think has actually suffered a little bit from this is Kesselring and Kolyachonok.
Yeah.
Because they're not Lamoureux, who you really do have to look out for, but they're also not Cole and Mata, who are the old dogs here. And even though they're both new to the system this year, they're still older, smarter veteran players who both won Stanley Cups, have played a lot of hockey, and I have higher expectations for them to keep it simple. So I think that those young to middle-aged guys are the ones who are getting hurt right now. And those are the ones who are running into issues and problems. And I don't know that I'm ready to pin the responsibility entirely on them.
No, I think it's maybe because the expectation is set for them, but they're not quite meeting that because there's those mismatched opportunities.
Yeah, it's so hard too, right? Because Ian Cole, even though he was almost 20 minutes a game last year, Mata stepped in and is right behind Sergachev and TOI, which is time on ice, by the way, if you're new. I don't know. I'm trying to figure out why you're shuffling those minutes around instead of really having a good full fourth line. And that's kind of the flip side, Robyn. We talk about defense, but again, when you have the puck, when you have possession of the puck, you don't have to worry about playing in your own end because you're in the other team's end. You're hanging on to the puck. You're generating scoring opportunities.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of where there might be a little bit of part of that, part of the issues where they're worried about all that. And I don't know. It's
well, and there's so many things too. There can be egos. There can be, the need to play guys. There's also contracts come into it, right? I mean, there's only a certain number of guys you can send down. Some guys have to clear waivers. Some guys you would lose, so there's a lot of different factors at play when you consider icing a lineup. It is just not as simple as take your 18 best and throw them out there.
Yeah, it's not like, all right, I'm going to, we know exactly how these guys are. All right, I know for sure. First pair, second pair, third pair. Boom, we're good. Easy. I wish it was that easy.
Yeah, and again, it's, the early part of a season where you're building a defensive core, and you even started the year with an even different look. No Dursey, definitely hurts. No Marino, definitely hurts.
Yeah.
It's going to be a while. So you've got to get through this as best you can. Look, we didn't pick them as a playoff team in the beginning, but that doesn't mean there aren't expectations to win.
Yeah, you and I said that this team is a playoff team if they overachieve, and based off of what we know for a month in, it doesn't look like they're overachieving. They're kind of being around where expected at this point.
That's fair. That's a fair assessment. And you know what, Robyn, to the point you made way back when we started the whole show about consistency, if they are able to use this season in turmoil and tumult to learn more consistency, that will benefit them in the long run. And they will still be trending towards, like I said, year 3 in Utah is when this team should become a legitimate playoff contending hockey club.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to keep things going on this show. We're going to get to some more talks and some more numbers and nuggets we have from the UHC in this first month. And then just give some last final hopes that we have from this team for the month of November. We'll do all that right after this. And today's episode is brought to you by Built. Listen up, renters. Have you ever felt that you're stuck in this loop of rent payments, just watching your money vanish into thin air? It's time to turn that rent game around and start earning some serious rewards. That's where Built Rewards comes in. Built is breaking ground as a neighborhood rewards program that hooks you up with points on your rent every month. Pay your rent and watch the Built points roll in. Use the points to jet off on a dream vacation. Put your points towards a flight or a hotel stay with 500 plus airlines and 700,000 plus hotels and properties. You can use the points to book fitness studio classes, redeem them towards future rent payment even. They're designed to meet your lifestyle. Pay rent hassle-free through Built Rewards app. Your rent game just got a major upgrade. Built Points has been consistently ranked the highest value point currency by the Points Guy and Bankrate. And I'll tell you guys right now, I have personally been a member of Built Rewards for the last few months or so, and I've been enjoying it, seeing those points come in every time I pay rent. I have it linked to a rideshare account, and it's like, hey, I get rewards every time I do that. And those points come in, I can use it for all those things I mentioned before. And I want you guys to check it out yourself. Earn points by paying rent right now when you go to joinbuilt.com/lockedonnhl. That's joinbilt.com/lockedonnhl. And today's episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you're hunching in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more, all in the same place where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You get started with $150 in bonus bets when you place your first $5 bet. That's on FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, Tom, we got a few minutes left on here. Any last little bit of tidbits you wanted to bring up before I share a couple of bit more from what I want?
Well, I think, Robin, one that I can, and it's going to lead you into, I think, where you want to go next, is one of the things that I highlighted before the start of the season was not being as absolutely terrible in the faceoff circle as they were last year. So far, Utah Hockey Club has been better.
Yes.
And it's showing up in a lot of big and small ways. Whether you're a veteran hockey observer or you're a new fan to the game, I think you can understand when I say starting with possession is to your advantage. Well, what Utah Hockey Club has done, starting whether it's in their defensive zone, in the neutral zone, in the offensive zone, with the puck more often, allows them to control the play more often. It allows them to spend more time in possession. It allows them to either set up scoring opportunities or control the defensive zone, break out of the zone, kill penalties, work on the power play. A power play draw is so important. If you don't start with possession, you might as well just run 20 seconds off the clock most of the time. And in a 2-minute drill, that's huge. That's a good chunk of time. So I do want to say kudos to the Utah Hockey Club because they have gotten better in the faceoff circle, and that is a big thing. It's not an often spotlighted stat, but that's a big thing.
You're right. It absolutely is. And I feel like it's a huge defensive stat that people I would say casual fans will write off because maybe they're looking at all the other numbers, all the goals, the assists. Maybe even if you're an advanced stat person, you're looking at Corsi and Fenwick or all that extra stuff. When faceoffs really is heavily forgotten. And Tom, I know you were critical about faceoffs in that first game. You're like, yeah, not great. You want to be a little bit better than that. And they have been. And they've gotten a lot better. And I think what the most important thing about that, Tom, is they realized that one of their centers is a face-off wizard. I'm going to call him. And you pointed that out early on in the season, early on in October. And Kevin Stellan has been fantastic with this.
I mean, so much so that Robyn, they will put him out to take the first face-off of overtime, win
Yes.
it, and get off the ice. That's
Yeah,
how
and
much they trust him in the
it
circle.
exactly. It really means a whole lot. I'm going to share a couple of stats I have with Kevin Stenlund just to show this because I was interested when you kept bringing his name. I was like, all right, I'm going to look a little bit more into Kevin Stenlund, see exactly how much of an impact is this guy making for the Utah Hockey Club. So first and foremost, let me actually give you this: face-offs won versus face-offs lost. Tom, is Kevin Stenlund this season has won 106 face-offs and lost 58. He has a 64.63% face-off win percentage. And
That's
that's in
got
all
to be near the top, if not the best in the league.
yeah, that is in all situations as well. So where it's a 5-on-5 or whatever. Because at that point, I don't think being on a penalty kill really matters. If you win the face-off, you win the face-off. I did a little bit of difference on situations here, but here's kind of where things get interesting. And I pair these together because zone starts alone, Tom, mean barely anything to me. If you're a zone start on a winger as a winger, I'm like, that doesn't really mean a whole lot to me. I look at zone starts really a lot at these centers, specifically someone like Kevin Stenlund, to see where they're at. In all strengths, so all situations right now. I'm also going to give you what his even strength numbers to give you an example. Offensive zone starts 19, defensive zone starts 79. So that's a 19.39% defensive zone start, or no, in offensive zone start percentage. So mostly in the defensive side, which means that they're like, okay, we're in the defensive side. We need to win this face-off to see we can get this out of our zone. And that makes a lot, and that's huge. I'll add one more, but I'll let you talk, Tom, and kind of get to. I want to get your thoughts on some of the numbers I'm throwing at you. The same thing for a zone start percentage is a 30.16 zone start percentage just on even strength situations alone.
So I dove in very quickly to the face-off stats while you were giving zone starts, Robyn. So Stenlund is indeed number one. Guess who's number two? Barrett Hayton. Nice
Hey.
job. Nice job, Barrett. 62.8%. So to bear out your numbers, Robyn, even strength face-off attempts for Kevin Stenlund, 77 won, 46 lost. Short-handed face-off attempts, even better, 29 won, 12 lost. So that is almost a 3-to-1 ratio. Yeah, I mean, he's hitting almost 75%, or sorry, 66%, which is fantastic. And is even consistent home and road. Home is 64.5, road is 64.8. Fantastic. So to your point, especially the shorthanded, the defensive zone draws, the trust is there, but more importantly, the control of the play is there when you turn to a guy like Kevin Stenlund and say, we're going to put you out there. Now, the other thing is, here's something you'll see, and this is especially for new folks, but maybe you don't even notice this if you've been watching the game for a while. There are times for critical moments in games, especially defensive zone draws, where you may see both Stenlund and Hayton out there together. And you're like, Tom, why is that they're both centers? There's one draw. Yes, but sometimes centers get thrown out of faceoffs. And coaches,
violations or whatever.
Right, absolutely. And so if a guy gets tossed out, if Stenlund goes in to take the draw, gets tossed out, the next guy you bring in, with all due respect, you don't want to bring in, Joe Smith, the winger, who's taken one draw in the last 2 months. No, you want Barrett Hayton to go in and take the draw, who is your second hottest gun in the face-off circle. So you'll notice that, especially in late game defensive zone situations.
And and absolutely. And I want to make something pretty clear, just for those that are new to hockey. When I meant zone starts, because there's a face-off numbers, the amount of face-offs someone has taken in certain zones, but there's zone starts specifically means when their shift has started.
Right.
When their shift has started, which means that if there was a break in the play, and they're like, all right, we're doing a line change. We're going to get some fresh legs out there. Kevin Stenlund's going to be put out on those defensive zone draws most of the time, which makes a huge amount of sense given the numbers we just put out to you guys. because I will give you an example. The reason it shows that because they also have on the fly starts, which is like 103. No one pays attention to that. Everyone really only pays attention to offensive and defensive zone.
And those are important because it does bear out the coaching confidence level and where they believe that it matters for certain players to be placed. And so that is why, again, we're underscoring the importance of a couple of players, but specifically Stenlund right now. The other thing too, Robyn, to your point, so an on the fly means play is ongoing. There is not a face off to begin play. It is, if you watch the players, hop on and off the ice over the boards, or they go through the gate and the boards, that's called on the fly or flow of play, but while play is going on. So there is no zone start associated with that shift. That is just hey, play is continuous, hockey changes on the fly, and the guy goes out there for his shift. So, and that's why to a certain extent, that doesn't necessarily matter as much, because typically you have possession when you're changing, and you might, I'd say 90% of the time, 85% of the time, you're in a regroup.
Yeah.
You're in a confident place with the puck. So you're able to cycle those guys out.
Which certainly makes sense. But I just wanted to put that out there for you guys to kind of give you an idea of how we perceive these things. Especially when it comes into diving the world of more advanced statistics. Maybe if you are newer, maybe you don't know how all these advanced statistics works. We're here. I'm going to try to be here to try to explain as much of that to you. I might try to do a little bit more episodes, maybe some exclusive content for our insiders on the advanced stats and a lot more of that kind of information when it comes to other forwards, other defensemen. Really break that down, but in a way that actually makes sense. Right.
Robyn, I'm going to go sign up for the text club right now because I want to hear your breakdown of this stuff.
Because I don't want to give just spew the information and be like, oh yes, X player has a 66% Corsi. But what does that mean? Right. So that's kind of what I'm going to try. That's what I'm trying to do for you guys. And here I'm giving you guys a taste on today's episode to everybody of what I plan to be doing for you guys this season on there's the content.
There's probably some people out there who are like, man, I think my first car was a Ford Corsi. No, it's it's a little different. But seriously, it is, and there's a lot to be used here, Robyn. I think even more so in today's game. I know the baseball term for it is Moneyball, right? Trying to find those players that statistics bear out that they're worth more, perhaps, than what is just seen. Or there is value in a player, or if they're used in the right situations. And that's where you really try to dive deep. You try to parse out things that can make a player, or maybe you have a player who is underperforming. Well, perhaps there's something in those numbers that can tell you, hey, if you push this player into these situations more often, chances are they might excel more. That's valuable to coaching staffs.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the interesting thing about going through all this, and that's one of the things I like about this. But don't get me wrong, Tom. I'm still an eye test. I still prefer the eye test among a lot of other things. I think a lot of us
eyeball
do.
Guy. Yep, eyeball test all the way.
But like I said, there is a time and place for advanced statistics, and I hope to kind of share with you guys when that time is and how to perceive that information. But again, that's a little teaser of what to expect if you sign up for the text club this season. Anyways, any final thoughts before we close things off, Tom, as we're running pretty overtime on here?
We are, so I'll keep it real fast. Just my final hopes for November are to show some good effort coming up here with this tough stretch on the road. Winnipeg, St. Louis, Nashville. I want to see some good efforts there and some other tough games coming up here. I mean, this is a difficult month, but if they can get out of this month 500 or a little better, I think that shows me growth from Utah Hockey Club.
It will show growth, and I feel like it will keep fans. I mean, not that I think fans are going to turn away at any point this season.
No.
But I think it will keep fans engaged a lot more, give them a reason to engage a lot more if they're showing that they're growing this season, that they have a reason to keep coming back every single day.
Absolutely, I agree.
But that's going to be it for this episode of the Locked On Utah Hockey Club podcast. If you liked what you heard, don't forget to leave us a like, leave us a comment on our YouTube, subscribe if you have yet to already. We're available everywhere you get your shows, of course, including on YouTube. If you do subscribe on YouTube, hit the notification bell and you'll be notified for every single new episode that we drop. So you guys will never miss any time we have one. Don't forget to interact with us on social media too. We're on Instagram, Threads, and on X at LO_NHL Utah. I am personally at Robyn_Leano. Tom Callahan is at Callahan on air. And if you were asking earlier, hey, how do I join the Insider Text Club that you mentioned earlier? Send us a text to 801-760-9033. That's 801-760-9033 to get started. Then we'll send you the link to sign up, and you can just click the link, get that information. First 14 days are always free to join the club. If you like what you get from it, feel free to stick around. We hope you guys do. We have a lot of stuff coming your way all season long. And if you don't want to text that number right away, you can also click the link in the description in our YouTube video if you guys want to just do it that way. It's a little bit easier that way, but multiple ways. Best ways to do it. Once again, thanks to everyone for tuning in today's episode. We'll see you guys next time.